What's up, NAIA Report Nation? It's your boy Manny here. Welcome back to the Hoop Report, the NAIA Women's Basketball Podcast, episode number 52. Got a coach's interview here for you guys. One that I'm very excited about, one that I've had on my bucket list for a while, and I'm glad we were able to get this one done. Without further ado, all I got to say is he's the head coach at Dakota State. Y'all should know who that is. Y'all know the program. Y'all know the reputation that they have. Without further ado, Coach David Moe. Coach, thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been such a pleasure, and I'm so excited for this.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to go through this with you.
Coach, obviously we got a lot to dive into, a lot to talk about, but the main thing that I wanted to start this with was the conference you're in now. Obviously, a new home this year in the Frontier, and I know I sent you the questions. I'm going to be honest with you. The New Frontier Conference line, that was such an accident. I did not mean for the pun there. But you have been a part of a New Frontier conference this year. Just talk to me a little bit about it. Talk to me about the experience so far. Obviously, there's a lot of new things, but at the same time, still a lot of the same old, just now in a bigger place. So just talk to me a little bit about how it's been this year in the Frontier.
It's been really good. I mean, it's been really fun to have, it's a loaded conference. I mean, we could get 5 or 6 teams into the tournament, honestly, top to bottom. It's been very competitive. It's been very fun. Playing on the road is no joke. We're traveling long distances, which it is what it is. And it's really fun to go to other teams, gyms and see different parts of the country. And like this last weekend, we went out to, Butte and Dillon, Montana, which from Madison to there by car would be about 13, 14 hours. It's no joke, but it's been really fun having a chance to compete against other teams. There's great coaches in the Frontier, and it's been a joy experiencing different styles of basketball, different coaching philosophies, and just seeing how we stack up against some of the better teams in the country.
No, absolutely. Obviously, the Frontier was one of I dubbed you all the parody conference because I knew, and you saw it even off the first few weeks. Like, it's going to be a lot of unknowns, and it's been one of the best conferences to cover for me and for us here at NAIA Women's Hoop Report. Aside from the travel, obviously, we all knew that was going to be the biggest obstacle, biggest hurdle, biggest adjustment for everybody, not just yourselves, obviously. But aside from that, what was the biggest adjustment that maybe you didn't see coming, maybe you thought was going to be more of an adjustment and it actually wasn't? Just kind of what was that that underlying one that you didn't expect, but it became a little bit of an adjustment throughout the year?
I think this last weekend was one that really kind of showed itself was the elevation. I didn't really take that into account, honestly. But going to Butte and Dillon, and we're late in the season, but our kids definitely they felt fatigued a little bit quicker. Playing at elevation is different, and that was something that um was hard to like anticipate and really know how you're going to feel until you actually go through it. I think we have a pretty good understanding now of how it's going to feel because we're going back out there in 2 weeks for the conference tournament. But that was something that I wasn't sure how it was going to go. The other thing was just styles of play. I mean, there are some really good post players in the Montana side of the Frontier, and obviously we're not the biggest team. We're quick, we're fast. And it's been really fun to see just how their style of play and our style of play go hand in hand with each other, and it's been really fun competing with them.
No, absolutely. Being a part of a conference now that is 10 or more teams, obviously more than 10 teams, that means that you get 2 automatic bids. It's something new for you all, obviously, because in the North Star, that wasn't the case. It was one bid, and that was the conference tournament champion, meaning that the regular season champion, it holds a little bit more weight than maybe in years past. Have you felt that compared to even just last year when you all were the number one seed and you all did win the regular season title? Is it a little different being a part of a conference now that number one seed holds more weight than in another conference where it's great, obviously you want to be the number one seed, you want to host your tournament, whatever the case is, but it doesn't punch that ticket that you ultimately are looking for to the national tournament?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it doesn't change a whole lot for our preparation going into games. The one thing I would say is it's almost like a reward for having a good season. Before it was great season, now you get to be the one seed in the conference tournament, but now you get rewarded for a great season, and then you can still have the postseason, tournament. And I think that's been the coolest thing is, we approach every game not to sound, cliche, but like we approach every game like it's just another game, and we're not going in there thinking we need to win. We're going in there thinking how can we improve? How can we be great in this moment? If we do that enough times, we'll be successful. But we didn't have any kind of thought of like we need to win the conference outright. We need to be the one seed. We're just trying our best to be our best in each moment, and it is fun to have the two bids that can, because everyone's fighting for the national tournament. And so to be able to get one of the bids would be fantastic. And that regular season one I think is pretty special because that's a full body of work, not just one, conference tournament.
No, absolutely, obviously, and again, those are 2 seasons. Like you said, the cliches. Every coach is going to say in about a couple of days here. Well, when everybody's watching this after tomorrow, everybody's going to say back to square one. Everybody's 0-0. That same old, which is true. And again, that is one of the reasons I do love the two bid situations, because it is a full body work. Longevity is what that first bid kind of resembles. And that second bid resembles peaking at the right time and staying with it throughout a long season. But obviously, I bring up the regular season crown because, like I mentioned, you all have a few things about winning regular season crowns, obviously, and you have put yourself in the driver's seat, I would say, for this number one seed. You're 2 wins away from pretty much clinching it outright. Obviously, it was a tough loss this past weekend to Montana Tech, who is number 2. Technically, Rocky Mountain, who's right now in 4th, also does have a possibility of winning. Like, shows you how deep everything is right now. But just looking at it from that standpoint, after feeling that you have control, in such a tight race, what is that like? What is that feeling like being in the driver's seat? Because at the end of the day, no matter what, you always want to, and every coach will say, you want to be in control of your own destiny. So just talk about that aspect of it, from being 2 wins away, having them be at home, I believe, including senior day, that will be on the last day of the season. Talk a little bit about that ability to be in control of your own destiny going into the conference tournament and possibly even farther.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, that's what every coach and player wants is to have control of their own destiny, and it's really cool because we've put ourselves in a position to control our own destiny. We've had a great conference season. We've lost 3 games on the road, which is really tough in this league. I mean, any road game in any conference is tough, but we put ourselves here in a position that we can play well on Friday against Dickinson and play well on Saturday against Bismarck. That we can be the outright champions of the frontier in the new frontier. And give ourselves a chance to have success. It's been fun. This last weekend in Tech, even though losing stinks, it was a great game. I mean, it was a back and forth the whole time. They're a great team. I think we're a pretty good team. 2 teams battling, and they made more shots than us down the stretch, and that's kind of what it came down to. And it's nice to know that we still control our own destiny even after this weekend. I know our players are really focused on kind of bouncing back from the Tech game, and for us, it's just let's get focused in on Friday, be our best on Friday, and then attack Saturday after Friday's done. But it is nice to know that we control our own destiny going forward. And again, everyone's trying to punch that ticket, and we have a chance to do that this weekend.
From a competitor standpoint, how does it feel to have such a tight race going into the end of the weekend? Because there are some teams out there in the conference who's already punched their ticket. They're already done, and they've been done. Again, people watching this on Friday, but they would have been done at the beginning of the week. You know what I mean? So you all are still in that mode of can't be satisfied, can't be complacent. Just talk about a little bit of the advantage that gives you all from a competitor standpoint of, hey, yes, we have our own destiny in our hands, but we can't let the pedal off the gas just because that is the case right now.
Yeah, and I'm probably a bad person to ask that question too because we really focus on just it's just another game. I know we control our own destiny, but going against Dickinson on Friday, it didn't matter if we were a 2 game lead or 2 games behind. We're gonna attack that game the exact same way. I'm very very big on process oriented like approach. And we're gonna attack practice on Wednesday the exact same way we would have attack practice a month ago, not knowing what our destiny is going to be. I think for the players, it's fun that they have something to play for. But we have bigger sights and we have things that we're really shooting for, and we're using this weekend, this opportunity to help us prepare for those moments come March that we're really trying to shoot for.
Absolutely, and obviously, again, regular season titles, not nothing new to your group. You won the last 5 in the North Star, including the one last year. I'm not gonna ask you, how it would feel to win the new Frontier one. I'm not gonna ask you that one. What I am gonna ask is, do you have certain feelings to that first regular season title that you won with Dakota State? Is there some similarities? Because it's not often you get to say, I've been with the program for 9 years, but this is the first year that I'm with them in this conference. There's it's not a lot of time to get to say that. So just from a kind of taking a step back and I'm realizing the career you've already had, the career that you can continue to have for the next however long you want to have it, this moment, just taking that step back, how does it feel to know that you've put yourself and your team in a position to do that? And even for the seniors, the ones that have been there for 4 years, this is back to square one. Almost like when you're a freshman, you're winning that first regular season crown. Just talk a little about that aspect of it, just taking that bigger, broader picture about it.
It is definitely unique to, we're fighting for our first ever conference title in the Frontier. Changing conferences is not something that happens very often. And so for us to be able to do that and go through it and have a chance to come out on top is pretty cool. The first time we won the North Star versus the first time in the Frontier are wildly different experiences. The first time we won the North Star, I mean, my story at Dakota State is kind of a roller coaster. My second year here at Dakota State, we went 4-25, and we went 4-25, and then 4 years later, we're playing in the Final Four of the national tournament. And so the kind of the wow factor of us going from 4 wins to winning the conference 2 years later was just an experience. And now that I've been here for 9 years and we've kind of got things established the way that we want, being in the Frontier now, this group is wired so much different than that group that first won. This group is very focused and driven, and they understand what's at stake, and they're just so locked into being our best in every single moment that this experience has been and both amazing experiences. I mean, college basketball is the greatest thing in the world, but to win it, 5 years ago for the first time in the North Star to now having a chance to win it this year in the Frontier are two wildly different experiences, but both great in their own right.
Absolutely. And I gotta do my job, and I gotta try and unpack that one. To go from 4-25 to the Final Four in a 4-year window, I think the people at home would love to know what was the turning point, how was the turn done. Like, just take us through as quickly and as compact, obviously, because again, that's 4 years. There's plenty of stuff I'm sure you can get into, but just the main points, the spark notes of those 4 years that kind of allowed you to go from 4-25 to in the Final Four with Dakota State.
I'll say number one, we got really lucky with finding great kids. Recruiting is the lifeblood of any college program, and you know when it comes to recruiting, we focus on. I've always said that if you can find really good people that work really hard, they care for each other, you're gonna have success. And we're really, really big on our culture at Dakota State. Our culture is, you know, basically it's family, it's respect, it's conduct, and it's discipline. And when you put all of those things together, um if you just approach every single situation, control what you can control, which is conduct, respect yourself and the people around you and the game of basketball. You have a family, which is a very unselfish mentality and accountability for something bigger than yourself, and the discipline to do that every single moment of every single day, and you stack days on top of each other. It that that was the change, and our players have kind of fallen in love with the process of becoming their best versions of themselves, on and off the floor. I mean, in the classroom, we have a 3.7 team GPA. They attack their studies the same way they attack being an athlete. And it was a wild ride going from 4 wins to the Final Four in 4 years. But they just were so focused on improvement every single day that it was just a fun ride. I tried to make that as quick as possible, but like that's kind of the meat and potatoes of our program: conduct, respect, family, discipline, and we just focus on that every moment of every day because that produces results.
And for that Final Four year, did you think it would be different? Did you, at the beginning of that year, in preseason, in the summer, whenever it was those ladies got back on the campus, did you have that feeling of something's special about to happen, or was it something that just kind of gradually built up, and then one day you said, no, 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 we got something real brewing here with this team?
Yeah, it was a wild year because we had just graduated 5 seniors that were the ones that kind of built the program up. I hired a brand new assistant coach, and so everything was kind of new. And so throughout the year, we were just trying to figure each other out and learn each other, and we just kept stacking days, and we got caught at the right time. Played some really good teams in that tournament. Fell to a really good Clark team that ended up winning that year. in the Final Four, and it was an awesome experience and ride that I'll never forget. But that team was definitely special. We had some great senior leadership, some good young talent, and they just trusted, loved each other, and played so hard for each other that it was a blast.
I can only imagine. And I gotta appreciate the segue there, Coach, because the next question, shifting gears to the team now, is on your newest assistant coach this year, Coach Jacob Strand. And the reason I want to bring him up, and before I get to him, the main part of this first question, these next two questions, really, late game execution. I've been able to watch a lot of y'all's games, especially because y'all are on the West Coast, so I get to watch some of those games a little bit later. And there's been a lot of times where you have been in close games, whether it's with a Dort early in the season or Carroll in Frontier play. And one thing that I noticed in those late games is you're allowing Coach Jacob to run the huddles, to do those type of things. And he drew up, I remember, and I have in the next question, but I got to bring it up. He drew an ATO against Carroll that was beautiful, that made me audibly say, "Wow, what a play!" It was beautifully drawn up. But his story is very unique. It's his first year as your assistant coach. He came from the GA side of things on the men's side just last year. So there's a lot of different things to go in there. But my question, I guess, with Coach Jacob is, why the trust? Where does the trust come from to not only give him a job after being a GA on the men's side, but then to also allow him to run the huddles in his first year and multiple times? And again, the man can run an ATL. I give him credit. The man can do that. So just talk a little bit about the relationship you have with him and the trust and where it comes from to allow him to do these type of things in year one.
Perfect. Number one, I feel very grateful and thankful that we have Coach Strand in the program and on staff. I think where the trust kind of stems from is number one, I was an assistant coach for 11 years, and I always felt like I saw the game really well as an assistant coach. I probably honestly saw the game better from the bench as an assistant than as a head coach, because head coach is a million things going through your head, and you're trying to, keep things organized. And he has a chance to sit there and really analyze the game, and he has things ready for ATOs that we talk about weekly. We share an office, which is awesome. We talk hoops all day. I mean, it's the greatest job in the world. But with us sharing an office, we talk through situations, and I basically told them, hey, just have like 2 to 3 plays for each situation. We need a quick two. We need a quick three. We want to run some clock here, and we're trying to get a drive and kick three to this player, and he's done a great job. I mean, being on the men's side last year, he understands the game of basketball really well. I know the coach that he coached with last year on the men's side, who's a phenomenal coach. And so when he came over, I've always given my assistants a lot of responsibilities because that's all I ever wanted when I was an assistant coach. I just wanted to coach. And so as a head coach now, I love to give my assistants a chance to coach and take situations. And I know people might question, well, that's the end of the game. That's a hot moment. I trust him, and we talk hoops every single day. And when that time comes, he's ready. If there's ever a time that I want to interject, I can, because I'm the head coach. But I definitely give him a ton of freedom to just use his creativity. The players trust him, and it's been a really good relationship so far.
All right. When I found that out doing my research, obviously getting ready for this interview, I was like, wow, I got to bring this up because, and again, for everybody already at this point probably knows, but me being a GA and having a great opportunity that I'm in, I see those things, and I can see how even future GAs, the next crop of GAs, whatever the case is, they can see the light of like, hey, this is an opportunity that really, and I've been a supporter of the GA role since I found out about it. It was something that I didn't know was a thing, and once I found out, I couldn't wait to be one. So I'm really excited for Coach Jacob. Like I said, the man's got ATOs deep in his bag. He's always cooking. It's great stuff. But talking about now from the team side of things, in those moments, you can have a great ATO, but if you don't got the players to run it, it doesn't really matter. So talk about the team now from that late game execution standpoint. What do you guys do in practice? What do you guys do in film sessions? Whatever the case is, that has allowed them to be confident, has allowed them to execute and be, and I can tell one of those things is your mentality of letting them know it's just another game. It's just one game at a time. And I can see that, after speaking with you just in these few moments, how that has translated onto the court. But going a little bit more in depth from the scheme standpoint, just talk a little bit about how they've been able to grow in those moments and just be comfortable in those moments.
I appreciate the kind words. We have some phenomenal players on our team, and we've been in some big game moments. I mean, you take Tabor Teal, who's a senior for us, All American post player. She's been in these moments, and so when that moment comes, she doesn't freak out about it. She gets excited for it. And she's, it's hard to simulate that in practice, but we do go through any game situations. We watch film on how teams will defend certain situations. If throughout the course of the game we know they're switching a ball screen, we might try to get a quick slip on the ATO, and Coach Strand and I are talking about that as we go into the huddle. But it's just a matter of, hey, it's just another play. It's just the next play. How can we be great in this next moment together? And we have an All-American post player. We have a rock solid point guard who's been a starter for us for the last 3 years, and some amazing pieces around that just they don't ever get too high or too low in moments. And I think that's the beauty of it, is just being able to stay present where your feet are. And how can we? Because like that's what every kid wants. Every kid wants that end of game situation. On the driveway, 3, 2, like every kid wants that. And so when they get a chance to have that, well, I remind them to just have fun with it. Like it's just a game. Basketball is just a game, and have fun with these moments, because this is what you grow up dreaming about. And it keeps us loose. And the more loose we are, I find the better execution we have. When we're tight, we don't play like us. And so try to keep them loose and just try to keep them having fun. And in those moments, just trying your best to give your best to be your best, honestly, is the main thing.
No,
So
absolutely. And like I said, I can see the comfortability, the calm when those ladies are out there again playing against the two-time defending national champions, Dort, and playing them down to the last. I'll say, Coach, it was a questionable call at the end there. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a questionable call there. I thought about it to this day, and that was back in the fall. So, but yeah, and again, playing against a really great Carroll team that just went down. They were the team with the last shot. That's really what that game came down to. And again, playing against Tech and some other these great teams in the Frontier, it's been a lot of fun to watch you all. Now heading over to some key players, and you knew we were going to start with her and Tabor Teal, one of the names that I'm sure Trojan Nation have gotten used to saying and is going to miss hearing a lot of times on the broadcast and seeing in the box score, averaging 16.5 points, 10.7 rebounds, while getting the full attention from the other team's defense. I mean, she's not just a first page scout. She's top of the scout. She's probably the next two spots after that too. That's just the type of player she is. But just talk about her game and honestly, why is she able to be so dominant, getting 16 double-doubles this season, counting, of course, and plus leading the team in almost every statistical category. Just why and how was she able to do this on any given night and every given night, honestly?
um uh, first off, Tabor is just a really, really special human being. I think my favorite stat about her is I think she still leads the conference in assists to go along with her points and rebounds, which is wild. Tabor's a really cool story. Tabor's mom actually played at Dakota State, and so she's a legacy, which is really cool. Tabor didn't see the floor at all her freshman year. She didn't see the floor, and it was really, really hard. It was a tough year for her, and she was pretty bitter. She was pretty mad. I mean, rightfully so. And her end of the year meeting, we had a very good heart to heart conversation. I just said, "Hey, you're not ready. You're playing too much of a victim, and until you take control of your own situation and ownership of your game, nothing's going to change." And I've never seen a player work so hard in the offseason and just take over. I mean, her sophomore year, she ended up being defensive player of the year and first team all conference. And then her junior year, she was an All American player of the year. And now this year, she's put herself in that same situation. But she is just a tireless worker. In the summertime, when she could be at the beach or doing whatever she wants to do as a college kid, she's in the gym 4 or 5 days a week, working on her craft. And she has just been such a joy to coach. And I'm so thankful that she took that conversation at the end of her freshman year as motivation and not as a way to walk away. And she's been an absolute joy. She's a great teammate. She's one of the most competitive people I've ever been around. And she's just a fiery competitor that loves her team, loves basketball, and loves those big moments. And she is very, at the end of the day, very unselfish. And she understands it's not about her; it's about the team. And DSU is very, very lucky to have her for the last 4 years.
I'm going to touch on two other players that have been very important, but I do want to kind of pick up on that conversation as a head coach and as a coach that understands, the potential of this player. what was that thought process for you to have that conversation with her? Because, that conversation is going one of two ways. It's going the way it did, or it's going to go the other way, and she maybe does want to leave. Just what allowed you to be confident in that moment of saying, I'm going to have this conversation with her this way because it's the right way to have it. It needs to be had, and I know she's going to take it in the way it's supposed to be taken.
Yeah, it comes back to our culture. The third pillar I talked about is family, which stands for forget about me, I love you. And I told her, I go, I'm gonna love you enough to have a hard conversation with you. And we talk a lot about accountability. And accountability is something that happens for you, not to you. And so we talked to her about that of, hey, I'm gonna hold you accountable to how great you want to be. Because from the day she came on campus, she wanted to be great. And we had a real tough conversation about you're not working to the point of being great yet. And she was feeling sorry for herself that she wasn't on the floor. And I just told her, I go, this is not a personal attack. This is me just being honest because I love you enough to have a tough conversation. This is where you need to be and how to grow. And it's up to you now. And she took it in stride, and I mean, she hasn't looked back. It's been one of the coolest things, and it's hard. It's hard to have those conversations with your players, but if you truly care about them and you come from a place of care and love, uh, it's the best thing that can happen for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And going to those two other players that we were going to talk about, they get a lot of attention from the defense as well. Doesn't really matter because they're still walking buckets. Caitlin Dyer and Bria Masmund. I hope I'm saying that.
Wasman.
Wasman. There it is. They combined for about 21 a night on pretty much 40% each on the field, and then 35% from the 3-point line. Talk about their impact. That may go unnoticed though. Well, obviously, I call them their buckets rated E and A, everyone and anywhere. It really doesn't matter. But from an underrated standpoint, what do they do that maybe doesn't even show up on the box score? But without this, we would not be able to be as successful as we are as a team.
I'll start with Caitlin. Caitlin's a fourth year player for us. She redshirted last year because she had a knee injury. But Caitlin is the best on ball defender I've ever coached. She is, if you get a chance to watch us play, I hope you watch us just to get a chance to watch Caitlin Dyer play on ball defense. She is special. Both players, Caitlin and Bria, are both about 5'4". They got passed over a lot because they're too small and too short. But man, Caitlin is just a relentless defender, and she is so much fun. And the way that we play, we pick up full court. We say we play fast, free, and fun. It's a full court game. We press, we trap, we fly around, and Caitlin Dyer just sets the tone every game defensively. And without her, we would not be doing the things that we're doing right now. And obviously offensively, she's a great shooter. She's a lefty, can get downhill. For whatever reason, lefties know how to get to the rim. So she's been great from that standpoint. But the unseen things that don't show up on the stat sheet exactly are just her relentlessness defensively. And then Bria is similar to Tabor, is she lives in the gym. I mean, coaches in our facility joke that she's paying a rent here in the gym because she's always here. Doesn't matter if it's 6 a.m., 8 p.m. She is just in the gym working on her craft. She loves the process of improvement. She's a phenomenal teammate. She, as a point guard, she's very unselfish, but she understands now that when the team needs a bucket, she can go get one. And she's been an absolute joy to coach. And again, what makes her special is no one sees it, but she works so hard on her craft, and it's really starting to show on the floor on game day.
Absolutely. Obviously, coach, this team is deep. This team is one of the best in the country, and it's not just the three ladies you've talked about. It can be anybody on any given night. So I give you the floor. I give you the next few moments here. Anybody you want to shine that has allowed this team to be a wire-to-wire top 10 team in the country in these rankings, as well as a Red Banner favorite. Who do you feel needs a little bit of light from the Dakota State Trojans?
Yeah, another starter for us is Sierra Watkins, another lefty from Sioux Falls. Is one of the most dynamic athletes. I mean, around. She's so good at getting downhill in transition. She is really really hard to stop, and we like to pitch the ball up to her so she can play in transition. And she's playing a forward position at 5'7", and she's meeting the challenge, and she's tough, she's physical, and she is just gifted and just such a great kid. I mean, our starting five is 5'4", 5'4", 5'6", 5'7", 5'10". I mean, like we're not a big team, but holy cow, do we play hard? And they're physical. They play off each other. They feed off each other. I'll say off the bench, we have two 6 foot sophomores that both play wildly different styles, but they're both great. Ella Carstensen is a phenomenal athlete. Does track it at DSU as well. Who is just, you mentioned that Dort game. That was kind of her coming out party. She had 20 some points in that game, and she is a phenomenal rebounder. She's so fast in transition, a great defender, and it is really improving on her craft. And then Mackenzie Simmons, who comes off the bench as well, is another 6 foot long wing type player who's a phenomenal shooter. And when she gets dialed in, man, she's the kind of shooter that can go off for 8 or 9 in a game. And she's had a few games like that in her career so far as a sophomore. And they've been great. And then we have another shooter off the bench, Hampton Hines, who is from here on South Dakota. She is probably the best shooter I've coached over the last number of years. She is so steady and so consistent, and she's the one thing that is holding her back a little bit is she doesn't always believe that when she shoots it, it's a great shot. And I'm like, kiddo, we need you to shoot that shot. That's a great shot for us. And so that confidence is coming. She's phenomenal. Angelina Chappell, who's our backup post player, who's phenomenal. Who again didn't see the floor her freshman year and has worked herself into now playing time. Brooke Gunderson starts for us, who's a senior from Buffalo, who's just she's 5'6". She's playing like she's 6 feet tall. I mean, she's just a pit bull out there, a bull in a china shop, and they all fit together. They all work together. And I think the coolest thing about this team is that they're all so close. They love each other. They love playing with each other, and they just feed off of each other's energy. And the more we do that, the more fun we have, and that's kind of the recipe for our success.
Absolutely, Coach. I got one more question here, but before we get to that last question, you talking, kind of, I've noticed a few things. You talked about recruiting being the lifeline for any college at university, period, no matter what sport you're talking about. And hearing you talk about these ladies and hearing you talk about, the size and you keep bringing up how they've been overlooked and that kind of stuff, is that where you look at in the recruiting? Like, how would you describe your recruiting? How would you describe your coaching career, your style? Because it feels like that is a constant theme, that you'll take that extra time to find that diamond in the rough, that kid that's been overlooked for something that they don't control. Like, at the end of the day, basketball is a tall person sport, but that doesn't mean that you just because you ain't tall doesn't mean you can't hoop. So just talk to me a little bit about how your coaching career has kind of been not defined, but revolved around and built off of this idea of, if you can hoop, that's all that I care about. That's all I really want. If you can work, we can work with that. Just talk a little bit about that coaching philosophy that I feel like has really been the biggest thing I've felt from this entire conversation so far.
Yeah, we go through a 5 step process when it comes to recruiting. I'll try to go through this really quick. It's character, effort, coachability, consistency, talent. The number one thing is we're trying to find good people. Again, if you find good people that work hard, they care for each other, you're gonna have success every time. And so we really focus on finding the character piece, or do they fall in line with our 4 pillars of conduct, respect, family, discipline? That's our culture. The effort piece is, I've never met a kid that works really hard in the classroom but doesn't work hard on the floor. Like, how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's what we focus on with our kids, is we find really good kids that work really hard on and off the floor. And when effort is just like what you do, it's not something you need to try to pull out of them and like really push. It's just who they are and what they do. Improvement becomes pretty easy. Coachability is a two-part thing. Is, how do you handle being coached? Do you look your coach in the eye? Is there that level of respect? And can you coach yourself? Do you have the drive to keep pushing yourself to improve and not have to be told to go in the gym every day? Consistency. I mean, as a coach, you get it as a coach, you just want to know what to expect. I don't care. The thing that drives me crazy is when I go watch a kid play, and if they're shooting the ball really well, now they're playing great defense. Or if they're not shooting the ball well, they're not playing defense anymore. I want the kids that are super consistent on things that they can control: their effort, their attitude, their energy, their communication. Like, those are the players that I found that work at the college level. And then the last piece is talent. You need talent, but I will never take talent over character, over effort, over coachability, or over consistency. And so my philosophy in regards to recruiting is, find the right people first, and you can build from there.
Absolutely, Coach. Last question I got for you here. We talked about, big games coming up this weekend to wrap up regular season, honestly, period. And then no matter what happens this weekend, you obviously will be competing in the Frontier Conference tournament. And then in a couple weeks, no spoiler, just so everybody knows, Dakota State will be making the national tournament, in case anybody thought that was going to be up for debate. But the question I have for you here is, into this home stretch, we're pretty much done with February. February is pretty much done. It's national tournament month. It's March. We're here. Where is the winning going to come from? When you're talking to these players, film sessions, practice, lifts, whatever the case is, what are you pointing to? What are you telling them? This is, or these are the things that will allow us to win and get to the mountaintop, somewhere that, again, you've been at, some of these players have been at, but that was in the past. We're talking about a new group, and even though some of these players have been there, it's a lot different now in the roles that they've been. So where is that winning coming from, and where are you pointing to these ladies in the direction to win?
It's a great question. I think when it comes to postseason play, it's the teams that know who they are the best that have the most success. As we come down, the end of the season, every game is elevated, and there's pressure, and you know there's just more to every single game. And so the more you can focus on the things that and we're gonna do what we do, those are the teams that have the most success. We have a pretty unique style to begin with. We are fast, free, and fun. We, like I said, we pick up full court. We play 94 feet. We make the game really, really fast. Teams have to try to compete with that. And so we really focus on just us trying to be our best selves. It's not as much about what the other team's trying to do. It's more about us doing what we do. And the more that we can do that, we want to really pound the paint with penetration on offense. And the more we can do that, the more great shots we're going to get. Defensively, it's relentless defensive effort, intensity defensively, and team rebounding. I mean, when we do those things, we're one of the best teams in the country. And so if we just focus on doing those things moment after moment, game after game, we're gonna like where we end up. And we don't talk about the end result. We don't talk about, honestly, playing for Red Banner. We talk about how can we improve right here, right now, to be our best selves. And in the postseason, it's so much fun. That pressure that the players might feel is honestly a privilege, and we just have fun in every single moment, trying to be our very best together. That's DSU basketball.
Absolutely, Coach. I like I said, this was a bucket list of mine. I knew it was going to be great. It was even better than I thought it could have been. I learned a lot from just a coaching's perspective. I hope the fans at home, I got a peek into behind the scenes, one of the best programs in the country, and honestly one of the quickest turnarounds. You heard it here first, from 4-25 to Final Four, to a team that Coach, you might not talk about it, but that's fine. That's not your job to do it. That's my job. This is a Red Banner team, y'all. This is a team that has a lot of high expectations, and a team that is going to do very, very well in a couple weeks here. So I cannot wait to keep covering you guys. I cannot wait to have our next conversation, because I know it will happen soon, and I can't wait for it, Coach.
I appreciate it, man. Keep doing your thing, man. I think it's really cool to see people elevating women's basketball. There's some great athletes out there, and so we very much appreciate everything that you're doing. This was a pleasure as well, and definitely keep in touch.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.